Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and man, oh man, I never thought I'd say this, but the Commanders actually have a real chance at Caleb Williams. All of this started when ESPN reported that the Washington Commanders are, quote, very interested in quarterback Caleb Williams, unquote. We got to dive into whether this quote actually makes sense. Is it from a trustworthy source? And of course, me being Rico of RicoScores, let's go ahead and get this disclaimer out the way, man. And I'm probably going to bring this disclaimer up in other videos as well. When it comes to things, whether it's a report, whether it's a rumor, I honestly don't care, because the main point of the video is for us to dive into whether or not it's a good idea. That's my whole thing. Let's talk about why we should do this thing and why we shouldn't do this thing. And I'm always dive into the player, the GM, the head coach, whoever we're talking about in the video. We're going to do a full deep dive into breaking everything down, looking at every angle of it as possible. So whether this report actually has any real merit, if this is actually coming from an inside source that's actually spoken to Josh Harris and Eugene Shin, I honestly don't really care for this video wise. Real life wise, yeah, I would love if this is true. Please be true. But video wise, what we're talking about today, I don't care. We're talking about Caleb Williams regardless. This just gives me a great reason to talk about him. Weaknesses, strengths, a lot of his weaknesses being blown out of the proportion, all of that type of stuff. We're going to talk about all of that. Is he still the best quarterback in the draft? We got to talk about that. How much would it cost to trade up from where we currently stand, number 3 overall, to number 1 to get him? Like, we're going to use the actual trade value, draft value chart to actually look at what that would take. So we're going to dive into that. And also, after all of that, is it even worth it? After we look at what it would take for us to trade up from 3 to 1, do you feel like it's worth it? That's more so going to be a comment posed for the comment section at the end of this video. And then we also got to talk about why taking Caleb Williams in the first round, or even just any quarterback, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, whoever it is, why that actually could work out for us in our favor and how we can still manage to build a great O-line around that. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get a notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Stay tuned for all of the content, because again, just like I said earlier, when I was doing the breakdown on Sam Howell getting benched for Jacoby Brissett for the remainder of the season, the good and the bad and all of that, who's to blame, go check out that video if you haven't already. But when I was doing that video, I talked about in the intro, just like right now, all of these video ideas I have, but then there's just random breaking news or crazy rumors that come out, and then that just pushes everything else back. So stay tuned, because I have some great videos that I've put a lot of time and work into. Y'all are gonna have a lot of fun with those videos. Y'all are gonna love it. I think those videos are gonna go crazy, so stay tuned. And again, videos like this just push those back even further, but that doesn't mean that it's gone. It's delayed, not deleted. So make sure y'all stay tuned. Without further ado, let's go and get to this video. Let's get it.
He's our quarterback for the 5-10 years, and I truly believe that.
All right, so front office executives around the NFL believe Washington plans to pursue DMV native, let's emphasize that, quarterback Caleb Williams in the draft from USC. And let's go ahead and get this out the way. I'm a statistics guy, so I'm not going to say 100% sure, but I'm 99.99% sure. I was already sure before this whole being benched for Jacoby Brissett for the last 2 games thing, but now it's like super final that we are going to take quarterback in this draft. Now, whether Caleb Williams is possible, let's dive into that. But let's just go ahead and move on, go ahead and emotionally detach away from Sam Howell. I talk about this in my video just earlier today, where I'm talking about Sam Howell's future here potentially. Do we trade him, or does he stay here, and does he have a quarterback competition with who we end up drafting? Do we bring in an additional cheaper veteran, like not a Jacoby Brissett price range, maybe like a Case Keenum price range, to come in to be that 3rd quarterback, and that's our QB room in 2024? I do a whole dive into that in the other video, so if you haven't checked that out, just go ahead and check that out. But my point is, just go ahead and detach from Sam Howell. We're drafting a quarterback, point blank period, and it's far more likely this happening in the first round than anywhere else. This next regime is not putting all of their eggs in one basket with Sam Howell. Even just the fact that they signed off on this decision, like ownership was like, yeah, go ahead, we're done with him. I don't care anymore whether he plays or not. We already know we're gonna get our guy. And like I've been saying, even before Sam Howell on this terrible run, even when Sam Howell looked like a franchise quarterback, the next regime has every right and they deserve to be able to pick who their next quarterback is. Now, as a Sam Howell fan, I was hoping that they would consider Sam Howell, but these last few games pretty much put the nail into the coffin. But even when Sam Howell was on his high road, he was leading the NFL in passing yards, all that type of stuff, all of this glory that was going on before we just went on a super losing streak. Even then, I still had the logic that the next regime should be able to come in and take whoever they want to. Now, granted, Sam Howell is better than Dwayne Haskins and what RG3 had going on and stuff like that, but still at the same time, Jay Gruden having to basically take on RG3 as soon as he steps into the door. Ron Rivera having to deal with Dwayne Haskins as soon as he steps into the door. Sam Howell, granted, seems to have a brighter future, but at the same time, the next regime has every right to decide on who their quarterback is, because quarterbacks get you fired, dog. And if they decide to pass on one of these three top quarterbacks, go with Sam Howell, and then we're terrible. Granted, Josh Harris seems like a more patient owner than that, but you never know, man. I just highly doubt it. So let's go ahead and move on from that. Now let's go ahead and focus on Caleb Williams. Now, the official exact notes came from Don Graziano of ESPN, or I think it's pronounced Dan Graziano. My fault. Yeah, it's that boy Dan Graziano. Don just sounds a little bit more fun though. Either way, he said the Commanders are a team to watch over the coming weeks for a number of reasons. With new ownership in place, changes are expected on the coaching staff and in the front office and potentially at quarterback. If the season ended right now, Washington will hold the number 3 pick in the draft. Yes, sir. And if it loses the last 2 and Arizona wins one, it could get as high as number 2. Yes, sir. Yeah, let's get it. There's some thought around the league that Washington is very interested in Caleb Williams, a Washington, D.C. native who's the strong favorite to be picked first overall. The Commanders, with a break here or there over the next couple of weeks, could find themselves in position to draft Williams or trade up a spot or 2 to get him. Watch what they do with Sam Howell over the final 2 weeks after he got pulled and replaced by Jacoby Brissett in the past 2 outings. There's a chance Sam Howell sits the rest of the way, and yeah, that's exactly what happened. He was saying that that's probably what will happen, and then that ended up happening. So this came out even before Ron Rivera came out and said that Sam Howell was benched. So if anything, the interest in Caleb Williams has only risen since he put out that report that I just read to y'all. And again, Caleb Williams is a DMV guy. I remember him coming out of high school being that 5-star quarterback, number 1 quarterback in his class and everything, and everybody rooting for him. And hey, man, it comes full circle. I never, ever thought that there was any hope that we would be in range of getting Caleb Williams. I kept seeing people do the jersey swaps a long time ago, before Sam Howell even started playing poorly. Like, just even before this season started, I was seeing Caleb Williams burgundy and gold jersey swaps, and I was like, nah, I wouldn't say nothing's impossible. Like I said, nothing's ever 0% or 100%. I'm just a statistics guy, but still, I just thought it was ridiculously unlikely. I mean, it's just crazy that we're even at this point right now, we're in realistic range to get him. Entering this season, I thought there was no way, mostly because no matter how bad we've been, Ron Rivera always finds some weird ways to manage to win 7 games in a season. And then we started 2-0. So at that point, after starting 2-0, I would have bet serious money that we wouldn't even have a minuscule of a chance to land Caleb Williams. Now it's real. Like, it's actually in range. It's actually quite wow. Now, before we dive into Caleb Williams himself, let's talk about how getting Caleb Williams could actually happen. If the Commanders really do want to trade up to number 1 to get him, because I think that's what you're going to have to do. Because even if the Bears are not replacing Justin Fields this draft, in this upcoming 2024 NFL draft, there's going to be other teams trying to trade up to number 1 to get him. In our case, we're lucky though, because the Cardinals are obviously going to build around Kyler Murray at least for the next year. So they're going to go Olu Fashanu, Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe Brock Bowers, something of the sort. They're not going quarterback, but they may hear our offers for somebody to trade up and take their spot, and then they not trade far back enough to miss out on one of those guys, to at least be able to land one of them. Same thing with the Bears, but a slightly different situation. Kyler Murray seems like he's pretty much destined to be the quarterback for 2024 at the very least. Justin Fields is kind of a coin flip right now, and I do feel like there's pressure on the Bears organization, front office, head coaches, and everything to take a quarterback while you have the chance to, because y'all weren't even bad enough to have this number 1 overall pick. That shouts out to the Panthers. This is the Panthers pick that the Bears ended up with in that draft trade that included DJ Moore, and then CJ Stroud ended up going to the Texans, and Bryce Young went to the Panthers. It was a whole mess, basically. But this is not a territory that the Bears will probably be in next year, just assuming that everything goes as planned. They weren't even bad enough to get that pick this year, let alone next year, after they potentially, if you want to say, for example, they take Olu Fashanu, a tackle, Marvin Harrison Jr., receiver, Brock Bowers, a tight end, Joe Alt maybe at tackle as well. If they improve the team through this draft, through free agency and things like that, there's just such a slim chance that they will be bad enough to even be in range of having the number 1 overall pick again next draft. So there's definitely pressure on this organization, whereas like this is a unique opportunity. Again, the Bears themselves weren't even bad enough to be in this situation. This is thanks to the Panthers. This is a unique situation where it's like, man, you're not here very often. Number 1 overall pick, this is a special case scenario. So even though I'm a believer in Justin Fields, I think you can build a team around him. If I'm the Bears, I would personally trade back a little bit. Maybe this is just some Commanders bias, like, hey, man, you should trade back, and I give you all these Justin Fields stats, but really I'm just a Commanders fan hating on the side, like, yeah, give me that pick. But either way, no, for real, though, and Justin Fields is from Atlanta, so maybe there's some bias there. He went to UGA for a little bit. Maybe there's some more bias there as well. He's from Kennesaw. He's from the metro Atlanta area. Been rooting for him since high school. All of the Georgia quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, Juju Lewis coming up, all of these guys. Big Matthew Stafford fan, all of that. But at the end of the day, shouts out Stetson Bennett, man. But either way, after going on that tangent, Justin Fields, I think you can honestly build around him, man. I really do. I think that if you get him the right offensive line, get him an additional weapon, this team could be serious, man. I mean, they were winning games this year they had no business winning. They already beat the Lions once, and then they almost beat the Lions twice, but Ben Johnson had to go in the deepest corner of his bag and pull out 2 touchdown drives to win the game in a 4-minute span. Like, the Bears overachieved this season, and if Justin Fields were healthy the entire season, which is also something we got to note, why you may want to move on from Justin Fields, is because his play style does lead to him potentially getting hurt. But I counter that with the fact that look at Lamar Jackson. He's played this entire season. Can't say the same thing about a lot of these pocket quarterbacks that don't run around like Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields do. It's kind of a coin flip no matter who you are. So really that argument, you can kind of throw it out the window in a way, especially this season. Seems like all of the pocket passers are injured, and then a lot of the mobile guys are good to go. We straight, man. We straight over here except for Justin Fields. But again, I think you could actually, honestly, all bias aside from me rooting for Justin Fields to be great, and also I'm a Falcons hater, so Justin Fields to the Falcons seems destined if he doesn't stay on the Bears, and to have to root against him and the Falcons at the same time, that would give me heartburn. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. Maybe there's some bias there as well. I can admit when there's maybe some bias involved in some of my opinions and logic. But either way, say, for example, because I'm just giving you the logic as to why and how the Bears may end up deciding to actually not take Caleb Williams number 1 overall and actually trade back a little bit and take one of those top playmakers to build around Justin Fields and at least give him one more season, sadly, which is something I highly doubt Sam Howell gets, one more season with building around him. Like, say, for example, Sam Howell, the same thing. We use this draft to build around him, get Olu Fashanu, Marvin Harrison Jr., something like that. You never know what can happen. But Justin Fields seems far more likely to get that opportunity than Sam Howell. But to our benefit, with us having the 3rd overall pick and why we need to go ahead and lose out for the remainder of the season, and hopefully the Cardinals win one more game so we can get the number 2 overall pick, is because if the Bears want to trade back just a little bit, just to get a little bit more draft capital, but still stay in range of, at the very least, you're going to get Olu Fashanu, Marvin Harrison Jr., or Brock Bowers, or even if you don't like Brock Bowers. At very worst, at the 3rd pick, you're going to have Olu Fashanu or Marvin Harrison Jr. there, and you can't miss with either of those guys. Olu Fashanu literally looks like the closest thing we've seen to Trent Williams in a while. I'm not saying he's Trent Williams, but come on, dog. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is arguably the best receiver prospect we've seen come out to the draft in years. He's different. Like, Julio level different. Like, we just don't, those don't grow on trees. All of the great Ohio State receivers we've been seeing this year, they have been undisputed wide receiver, man. Shouts out to Jeremiah Smith, but they're about to get the next one. That's what's crazy. But hey, man, Marvin Harrison Jr. is even a step up above all of those guys. He's like super different, and the Bears may not want to risk missing out on that. So who's there at number 3? Us. If you want to trade back, build around Justin Fields, acquire more draft pick capital, because you're just uncomfortable with taking Olu Fashanu or Marvin Harrison Jr. #1 overall while Caleb Williams on. It's like you're going to end up with the same player you really want. If you really want Olu Fashanu or Marvin Harrison Jr., you're going to end up with one of those two guys no matter what if you only trade back to 3. Can't promise you, and maybe this is like the Commanders agent talking to the Bears, I can't promise you go back to number 4. Both of those guys will be there. Matter of fact, we might take one of them. The Cardinals might take the other. Now you're sitting there looking crazy at number 4 without Olu Fashanu and Marvin Harrison Jr. as an option. So trade back to 3. One of those guys will be there. We give you some draft capital in the process. So now you're getting the exact guy you wanted, at least one of them. And then after that, you're also getting additional picks. It's literally a win-win for the Bears in that situation. But this all depends on whether or not they are willing to give Justin Fields another year and build around him rather than drafting pieces to help him. They may just go and draft his direct competition, the guy to replace him. We'll see. You never know, man. I'm really intrigued by this whole situation, man. But that's why I'm saying, as the Commanders, this is realistic. It's not very likely. But then again, if we lose out and the Cardinals win one more game and we're at number 2, ooh, it gets a little interesting, man. You only have to trade up one spot. You got to give up quite a bit. But it's not that bad, man. It's not that bad. And when you're looking at the value chart, the trade value chart, and of course, you can't just completely believe into this. This is not gospel. This is not pure fact. This is not a direct simulation of what exactly is going to happen in real life. But according to the draft value chart, and I trust that more than I just trust a random guy on Twitter just saying random picks that we could get going from 3 to 1. We are at the very least referencing some analytics and some statistics here. But I am warning you that this is not the wholehearted truth. This is not just a pure fact. This is what you literally have to give up. It's completely up to the Bears what they're willing to accept and what they're willing to not accept. But just to warn you, going from pick 1 to 3, there's a gap of like 800 points according to the draft value chart. So basically, it would take our first, of course, the Bears second, and our third to get it done if we wanted to trade up from 3 to 1. Then, of course, you could also maybe throw in a player that already wants to be gone to keep one of those picks. So instead of giving up that third, maybe you include Jonathan Allen. So now you give up, say, Jonathan Allen, because it seems like he already wants to go and doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. I'm not surprised. You give up Jonathan Allen, the Bears second. We get to keep our real second, which is higher than the Bears second. And you give up our number 3 overall pick. We can land the number 1 overall pick and still have our second round pick and our third round pick, if that's the route you want to go. But of course, if you want to keep Jonathan Allen, see if he can believe in the new regime and what we got going on. And I mean, especially if you convince him like, hey man, we're doing everything we can to get Caleb Williams. He looks like the next Pat Mahomes. Just be a little bit more patient. We got you type of thing. Then whatever you got to do, first our third overall, our Bears second, and then our third, and then you give that to them to get the number 1 overall. You got Caleb Williams, and then you still have your second round pick, which is really high, even higher than the Bears second round pick that we hypothetically give to the Bears. Actually, in return, that's actually really crazy. Even if you keep Jonathan Allen, we will still have another second round pick and another third round pick, because we have 2 picks each. Because remember, we traded Chase Young for a compensatory third from the 49ers, and we traded Montez Sweat for a high second to the Bears. So you could give away your number 1 overall pick, a second and a third, and still have a second and a third. That's how much draft capital we have. And that's why, at the end of the day, it sucks that we traded away Montez Sweat and Chase Young. But hey, if it leads to us potentially getting Caleb Williams, hey man, more power to them guys, man. So I definitely want to know how y'all feel about that scenario. Are you willing to trade your first, second, and third round pick to get the number 1 overall pick to move from 3 to 1, and then you still have a higher second round pick, ours basically, and are really, really late, basically almost an early 4th round pick third round pick that we got from the 49ers. Are y'all willing to do that? Let me know in the comment section. Now let's go ahead and talk about Caleb Williams himself and why he is still QB1. As much as I love Jayden Daniels, and I will tell you right now, Jayden Daniels looked like the best quarterback in college football last year. He did. But I honestly feel like this is just prospect fatigue right now, dog. It's just one of them things that we're always trying to out-talk ourselves, and it's kind of boring. Like, Caleb Williams has been the #1 guy for like 2 years now. We already knew before the 2024 draft, all the way back in like 2022, Caleb Williams was probably gonna be that guy. Winning the Heisman last year and everything, not this year though. And he's just been seen as the #1 prospect for so long that so many people, whether it be genuine, like people are actually bored and somehow psyching themselves out to think that he isn't anymore, or they're just trying to generate clicks and act like, man, what if Jayden Daniels is actually the best quarterback? Click on our article to find out. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what it is, but Caleb Williams is still quarterback one in my opinion. Now, he does come with his fair share of problems. We're going to dive into that. He's not the perfect prospect. Otherwise, we would have nothing to talk about. We wouldn't even be here. There's no debate. He's going #1 overall, and the Bears wouldn't even chance giving Justin Fields a chance and missing out on this guy if he were that perfect. It's the fact that he does have some flaws that again, I doubt it. I think the Bears are more than likely just going to go with them, especially with the organizational pressure on them to do so, even if they do like Justin Fields. But he is not this perfect prospect. I'm not even trying to paint him as one. But I'm basically saying there is a reason that there is a chance that the Bears may just go ahead and just stick with Justin Fields and build around him and give him another year rather than to take this guy, because he's not just this super perfect, super can't miss guy. Now, are you far less likely to miss with him than most quarterbacks, it seems, in recent history? Of course. Let's dive into that, though. First of all, Caleb Williams did not regress this year. USC did more than anything else. Again, he has his fair share of problems, his weaknesses and things like that, but come on, dog. And I know Pro Football Focus is not the gospel. Everything they say isn't just absolute, but dog, man, their offensive line had the 302nd ranked tackle, 128th, 188th, and 411th ranked guards, and the 158th ranked center, according to Pro Football Focus, out of college football. Also, they lost their best wide receiver to the NFL this year, and he still, Caleb Williams, had a better yards per attempt, completion percentage, and quarterback rating this year, believe it or not. Doesn't really feel like it with how many games they lost, but Caleb Williams technically got better this year than he was the year he won the Heisman in a weird way. The offensive line was atrocious. The defense was also terrible too, but like Caleb Williams, I don't know if y'all have seen this play specifically. Shouts out my boy at Air Raid Concepts for bringing this up, but that man did like a really nice shoulder fake to trick the linebacker to get the receiver open past the linebacker. You just got to see, this is advanced stuff. These are the things you only do when a quarterback is comfortable, when the game has slowed down for him. And I'm not saying it's easy, but the game is slower for him. He's not overthinking things. He's not, oh no, I got to go through this progression. I got to worry about pressure. No, this guy is in his mode. He's in the zone. And let me play around with these DBs to get what I want type of thing. Look at the clip right here, man. Just pay attention to the bottom of the screen. He killed him with that move, man. The linebacker bit so hard, and I'm not even mad at the linebacker for that. That's just something, all right, I guess after he got us with that, we need to scout that. We need to pay attention to that on film, and let's not fall for that. But at the same time, his arm is such a rocket that if he looks like he's about to throw, you better hurry up and break on that right now. So it's kind of unfair if he gained this pump fake, this weird shoulder. Oh, I'm about to zip. Oh, I'm about to bullet this, to only just fake it. Linebacker moving up to think he's about to make the play of his life. And now you look crazy on tape. Everybody blaming you on the all-22. Why did you let this receiver get this open? You're supposed to be underneath. And then, I mean, you're also looking at the safety like, golly, man. I mean, what's the safety supposed to do in that situation? But that is crazy, man. Also, I'm going to do a full Caleb Williams breakdown at some point in the offseason once I watch a lot more tape and stuff like that, because I literally want to watch tape on as many games of his as possible. Not only just this past season, but last season as well. But for now, just go look at the highlights, dog. That's all I got to say. He wasn't as successful as a lot of us expected this season, especially win-loss wise, but he's still QB1, dog. Plain and simple. And I'm not gonna lie, I do have some concerns. Let's talk about some of the concerns. Because on one side, you know, with his team being that terrible, the offensive line being that bad, the defense being that bad, a lot of people are saying, who can carry a team in those conditions? Well, I got a guy. My Westlake alumni, Southwest Atlanta's greatest, Cam Newton, who carried a terrible Auburn team to an undefeated national championship in the big bad SEC when Alabama was dominating. I feel like that Cam Newton undefeated championship season is just ridiculously underrated because I don't believe any of his offensive players got drafted. It was some crazy stat like that. Like maybe one did. Like that team was not good, dog. Like at all. And it's against higher level of competition than what Caleb Williams is dealing with. It is. So like, yeah, Caleb Williams lost 5 games in the Pac-12. That's not a good look, man. Especially again when Cam Newton goes undefeated and wins a championship with a team on his back. Of course, yeah, Caleb Williams' O-line was really bad, like I mentioned earlier. Of course, his defense was arguably historically horrendous. But when comparing what Cam had at Auburn on his side versus what he had to go against, and you do the same thing for Caleb Williams, what he had when he had to go against the Pac-12 defenses are nowhere near as good as the SEC ones. You could easily argue that both quarterbacks had just about the same gap between what they had versus what they had to face. The weapons they had, the arsenal they had, the help that they had around them versus who they had to go against. You can argue it was the same gap for both quarterbacks, and Cam Newton had a completely different season, a completely different result. So that basically just goes to show that Caleb Williams can't necessarily carry a team to win in spite of all the ridiculousness that's going around him with him, which is okay because Cam Newton is one of one historically. Not many. Pat Mahomes is struggling right now to win games. They just lost to the Raiders. I know the Raiders are playing with a different level of spirit. They just on a whole nother level with Antonio Pierce, but they're still not very good. You know what I'm saying? So especially in this day and age with so many great quarterbacks, yeah, Pat Mahomes is still arguably the best one, but it's not like there's just this huge gap between Pat Mahomes and the next tier of great quarterbacks. They're arguably all in the same tier. So it's a lot of small margins and things like that. It's hard to carry a team, period, right now. So it's kind of like unfair. It's really a fallacy to compare Caleb Williams to Cam Newton. But I just wanted to point out the fact that, yeah, Caleb Williams cannot carry a team like how Cam Newton used to. 15-1, Ted, getting your best receiver and not the best O-line, going to the Super Bowl. Like, that's one of one, dog. That's really one of one. But, again, I'm saying all of that to say that, hey, man, who else can, though? Who else has done that since Cam has done it, to be completely honest? I mean, you could throw some names in there. Maybe Josh Allen at times has had to do something similar. Pat Mahomes has done something similar, but neither of those guys are even great enough to carry their teams right now. They all have losses for a reason. First of all, it's the NFL. This is not college at all. I mean, Pat Mahomes over there losing games left and right with Texas Tech. So, you know, that doesn't stop Caleb Williams from going to the NFL and being a Super Bowl winning quarterback like Pat Mahomes is. I feel like a lot of those guys kind of have the same potential career trajectory. Also, there's some character concerns there, but I truly believe that all of them are being blown out of proportion or just straight up fake. Like, I am worried that he could have some RG3 personality in him, like a little bit devious, but all of the other stuff is ridiculous. I also don't think it's bad enough to hurt his chances of winning. I'll gladly take on those character concerns, but like, I'm seeing people complaining about him crying. That was stupid. I'm seeing people say that he doesn't have a great work ethic. That's wild and completely false from everything I've seen and heard everywhere. That guy works his tail off. I'm also seeing some people bringing up the fact that he said he wouldn't enter the draft if the Bears planned on taking him, or one of those teams ended up taking him. Like, several quarterbacks haven't done that in the past, including Eli Manning, who isn't painted as a villain much at all anymore. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't even know Eli Manning pulled the same thing that people are accusing Caleb Williams of pulling. And it worked out just fine for the Giants. The team that ended up getting them, they got 2 Super Bowl rings out of it. So Caleb Williams could, you know, in the same scenario say, I will not play for the Bears, but hey, Commanders take me, let's go win some Super Bowl, let's get it. So I'm not worried about that character concern. And then I'm also just assuming the thing that with him requiring a percentage of ownership of the team that takes him, that just has to be a silly rumor, because that's legitimately crazy if that's true. I just highly doubt it. I think they're just, again, draft prospect fatigue. They're bored. They're just looking for any reason to bring them down from the top, from being the king of the hill, the number 1 spot, just to stir up some controversy or whatever. He's going number 1 overall regardless. I just already know it. He don't even have to run a 40 time at the combine if he don't want to. I'm telling y'all now, he's going number 1 overall. It's just a debate about whether who or not will be the ones that get him. Now, shouts out to Pro Football Network. Again, I'm gonna do my own film analysis, but just to give you some of his strengths so you can just hear how ridiculous this is. And I completely agree with these strengths because I've read all of this down before I even started recording this video. And granted, when I start to watch my own all 22 tape, maybe I will disagree. But from what I've seen so far in highlights and spurts, watching some USC games, I haven't watched really any film on Caleb Williams yet, to be completely honest. So my opinion may change, but from what I've seen so far, this sounds about right. Excellent arm talent that is capable of delivering an accurate pass to all levels of the field. Check. Effortlessly generates velocity on short and intermediate throws, even if he's unable to align his body and plant his feet. Check. That's elite. That's very hard to find. Accuracy and ball placement consistently allow his playmakers to maximize opportunities after the catch. Williams leads receivers upfield and often hits the correct shoulder for them to continue their momentum. Check from what I've seen, and that is very underrated, y'all. Like, for a receiver to have the right amount of accuracy and touch to where pretty much all of the time, if at least most of the time, receivers catch the passes in a way for them to be able to turn around or continue to get yards after catch to avoid getting hit and things like that. That is huge. That's how you become a receiver's best friend. That's how you become an offensive coordinator and head coach's best friend and a franchise player. I don't think people understand how, even though that's a small detail, how much that matters. That's the difference between an 8-yard throw and being tackled right there, or an 8-yard throw turning into a 30-yard yards after catch. Now you have a 40-yard play. It's little things like that that add up to make so much of a difference, dog. I can talk about that for an hour straight. I can literally pull up footage about how important that is where ball's placement goes and allowing receivers to get yards after the catch. That's huge. A fantastic player outside of structure as he correctly reads defenders' leverage and angles, then capitalizes on opportunities with accurate throws. Completely agree. From everything I've seen off schedule, this guy is different. This guy is different, and it takes the wind out of defenses. They feel like they played perfect defense, perfect coverage for like 3 to 5 seconds. Caleb Williams is out there escaping the pocket, doing whatever he can to escape pressure and things like that, and then delivers a 50-yard bomb to an open receiver, because no matter how elite your defense is, no matter how ridiculous, you can have the best secondary in the NFL. No secondary in the NFL can cover for 7+ seconds. It's literally impossible. Somebody's going to get open after Caleb Williams is scrambling and things like that. Somebody's open. Also, extremely efficient passer who protects the ball from defenders with high-level decision-making, field vision, and ball placement. That's huge as well. He made, we could talk about the fumble problem a little bit, but he does not throw interceptions like that. And I love it. And that's not only just arm talent, accuracy, that's also up here. Decision making, reading the field, making the right decisions. He's different. Routinely compensated for a mediocre offensive line and receiving corps by identifying incoming blitzes, hot reads, and extending plays when needed. So this is a problem that Sam Howell is having right now. Pre-snap, identifying, okay, that guy may be blitzing, or this offensive lineman sucks. So let me make sure that since he usually gets beat, let me go ahead and account for that pre-snap. Let me go ahead. All right, maybe we need to shift the whole line this way. This guy looks like he's about to blitz. Hey, you get him. All right, hike. And then post-snap, seeing what's going on, feeling the pressure, making the right decisions, and if everything is ugly around him, he just seems to always pull a rabbit out of his hat and find a way to get out of the pocket and extend the play. And again, after a certain amount of time, some receiver's going to be open. It seems like he always finds that receiver, or he can just run for it himself. And so this is a guy that, with the argument, well, you draft Caleb Williams, that means you're not taking tackle in the first round. Well, first of all, we have a lot of cap space. I'm going to talk about this later. But also, he's a guy that maximizes the productivity of your offensive line. He makes a bad offensive line look average. He makes an average offensive line look good. And he can make a good offensive line look great just by simply having the elite pocket presence and awareness, footwork, and all of that around him. And again, he's even really good pre-snap already, which is something really hard for quarterbacks to learn once they get to the NFL level. Also, his anticipation while playing in structure was good in a limited sample size of play calls. Was not carried by any innovative offensive scheme or elite NFL playmakers, so his adjustment to a bad NFL situation may not be as jarring as some of the top quarterbacks will face. A lot of these top quarterbacks are coming from really good offenses, going against bad defenses. Boy, he's usually going against a team that's been better than him this season, and he still found a way to make something shake out of it most of the time. Also, he has lightning quick reaction time when he sees a receiver coming open, so he's one of those guys that can anticipate a receiver getting open and throws it before they get open, which is huge. You literally need that at the NFL level. You can't succeed without it. But even at the same time, with his arm strength and his ridiculous reaction time, you do see sometimes, especially at his highlights, where he didn't even throw the receiver open. The receiver's already open, but he throws it so quickly. His release is so nice that it gets there before the defender can do anything anyway. It's really ridiculous. Also, I mean, ability to produce chunk plays to help overcome an offense that can't sustain consistent drives. So basically, the offense sucked, and it's basically Caleb Williams just making something shake to keep the offense on schedule. We ain't got nothing cooking. Play call, nothing cooking. Receivers getting open. Nah. Offensive line led me down, trying to Willie Beeman me from any given Sunday. And he still finds a way, bro. We got to stop this. The pocket mobility is ridiculous. He, like I showed y'all with the shoulder thing, he's able to manipulate defenders with his eyes, his shoulders, and legs to open up space for either himself or receivers. So if he's on the run, he'll pretend to pump fake or something, get the receiver jumping, now he runs right by him. Or like we showed you earlier with the shoulder fake, he knows, okay, based on pre-snap read, this guy may be blitzing. Let's change this offensive line. Let's change these protections right now. Okay, that receiver looks like against this coverage, he's probably going to get open. So when I snap the ball, let me be aware of what the offensive line may do, but also let me look this way to get that back safety that can have a chance of making a play over here. Let me get him over there, and then at the last second, I'm going to look this way. He's going to be wide open because that safety's worried about where I'm looking. That, I mean, come on, dog. That's elite stuff, though. You can't. It's so hard. People act like they can teach it, but so many quarterbacks just never gain something like that. And the fact that he already comes with that, he already comes with a lot of skill sets that you just can't teach, dog. The arm talent in itself, but I'm trying to dive into stuff even deeper than that. Now, weaknesses. Is vulnerable to shouldering too much of the offense's responsibilities, causing them to pass on quick throws in favor of extended plays down the field. So, and this is what a lot of quarterbacks deal with that are on bad teams coming out of the draft. Hero ball. He does struggle with hero ball at times where there was somebody obvious and open and just an easy hit right there to get like a short yardage, first down, whatever. He passes that up for the bigger play. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it ends up on his highlight tape. Sometimes it doesn't, and those don't end up on the highlight tape. That's why you got to watch all 22 film. Also, sometimes can be too reliant on elite arm talent to make throws, compromising his footwork and balance, leading to missed throws. So inconsistent mechanics because he's just so used to things coming so easy to him. That's something you can coach out of him, and that's something most talented quarterbacks come into the NFL with. That's just a thing. Also, not a real experience in a real NFL offense, like timing based offense as far as like we know where we're going pre-snap. Let's make sure we get it there at this certain time. Everything is more so kind of on the fly. So that'll be really interesting to see that adjustment going to the NFL. Also, sometimes he can get happy feet and will break out of the pocket even before it's necessary sometimes, but that's probably just shell shock and PTSD from having a bad O-line, which is sadly what Sam Howell had to deal with this past season for a lot of the games. It seems like once they finally started to block well, Sam Howell was already shell shocked so bad that even when the offensive line was blocking well, he was leaving the pocket too quickly, and now he looks like he's stupid when it's really the offensive line's fault for getting them beat up so much in the first half of the season. But yeah, man, I just wanted to give y'all some of his positives and negatives. If you want to go check that out, you can. It's the Pro Football Network's breakdown of film. I didn't read everything weaknesses and strengths wise, but I just wanted to give you a general synopsis of how ridiculous this guy is. Now, let's dive into why you should draft quarterback and not tackle. And I'm big on drafting tackle. I am. If we're not going quarterback, take tackle or Marvin Harrison Jr. And I feel like it's very underrated how valuable Brock Bowers could be to an organization. I really do. If it's up to me, I would take Bowers over Marvin Harrison Jr. That's just me though. But moving on, shouts out my boys at the 10 Top Podcast. Great point right here. I completely agree. The Redskins spent 20 years, 2000 to 2020, with Chris Samuels and Trent Williams, all while starting 21 different quarterbacks, only reached the playoffs 3 times and won 1 playoff game, and never won more than 10 games in a season. Let's worry about quarterback before we worry about left tackle. Come on, dog. You can have Hall of Fame left tackles all you want, But it doesn't matter if you don't have that quarterback, dog. Also, shouts out my boy Josh Taylor over there, bringing up the point that the Eagles are probably the best O-line in the NFL, and Lane Johnson is the only first rounder. Jordan Mailata was drafted in the 7th by the Eagles, and this is a guy I warned y'all about even before the Eagles got him, that if you get this guy that came from, I believe, Australia, I know he was a rugby player somewhere, and you can turn him into a potential tackle, he can be elite. Now look at him. I mean, that's one of my best predictions and most genius moments I've had so far since I've been even talking about football on YouTube. That's my guy right there. Shouts out to him, man. Even though he's over there in enemy territory, I was rooting for him so hard to work out. Man, I'm happy for him. Also, Dickerson was a 2nd rounder. Jason Kelsey was a 6th rounder. Juergens was a 2nd rounder. And Johnson was the 4th overall pick by the Eagles, which was their only 4th rounder. Come on, dog. And Juergens and Dickerson were both centers in college. So this is just the Eagles' great development and also evaluation to take 2 centers and to turn them both into guards. So basically they essentially have 3 college centers on their current team right now, but they developed 2 of them to be really great guards on the best offensive line in football. And again, the only first rounder is their starting right tackle. That's it. Everybody else was scouting, sneaky guy here, let's take a chance on this guy. Development and evaluation, dog. Scouting and development is huge, and I'm hoping and I'm trusting that the next regime will have that in them. So if you take Caleb Williams in the 1st round, you could probably find your elite left tackle, right tackle, whatever you want in the 2nd round maybe. Or if you really want to, you can probably package some picks together to move up back into the 1st round to get one of those elite tackles, if that's what it really takes. But also, again, like I foreshadowed earlier, free agency exists, y'all. And we have plenty of cap space. I'm working on a video. That's one of my videos that y'all are going to be really excited about to see, because our cap space situation is even better than a lot of y'all probably even think. It's crazy, dog. And we have all of that. Also, shouts out my boy Tan Top Podcast for bringing this up. Going back to the 2000 draft, the hit rate on 1st round quarterbacks is about 33%. Way higher than any other round. So, of course, yeah, 1st round quarterbacks don't just automatically mean success, but at the same time, it means more success than any other round quarterback. And so Tan Top Podcast also continues to say, you don't not go quarterback in the 1st because 67% fail. You go quarterback in the 1st because 33% succeed. I completely agree right there, dog. I completely agree. Again, I like Sam Howell. If we wanted to go stick with Sam Howell and build around him, go tackle in the 1st round, cool. But I'm warning y'all now, it's not going to happen. So my point is, go ahead and accept it. We're drafting quarterback in the 1st round, and this is why we can take quarterback in the 1st round and still be able to build a good offensive line for him. Also, shouts out to Josh Taylor, because he was seeing people talking about, I didn't see it, I'm not on Twitter that much, or at least that deep in Twitter, but and usually I'm high school football and college football stuff anyway, but people were saying they didn't want Caleb Williams because he was a hometown kid. But I think a lot of those same people will probably want Olufashanu. He's from Maryland. So, like, with that take is gone. Now, I mean, I understand if you just standing on that, you don't want Caleb Williams and Olufashanu for some reason, just simply because they're both from the DMV. But don't act like Caleb Williams is the only elite prospect from the DMV in this draft, dog. Shouts out to the DMV for that, too. #1 tackle, #1 quarterback, all from the same area. I keep telling y'all, when it comes to on like a per person basis, the DMV, one of them top places at producing talent, man. I'm telling you. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I appreciate y'all, man. If you can't donate, and if you want to donate, I appreciate it. If you appreciate all of the work that I'm putting in, please do that. You can donate directly to YouTube. You can become a channel member, or you can also donate Cash App, PayPal. All of that information to become a channel member, everything is in the description of this video, every live stream. And also, if you don't want to do that, if you don't have any money to donate, I'm still rocking with y'all. Just leave a like on the way out. Leave a comment, no matter what it is. Even if it's just a random letter, I prefer something rather than nothing. Even if you want to leave a dislike on the way, I really appreciate it. But of course, my main thing is, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Do you agree or disagree with me? Let me know why, for either way, agree or disagree. Again, No hard feelings for me, man, because again, my whole point is to become a smarter football fan, a smarter reporter, YouTuber, whatever you want to call me. And if I'm wrong about something, let me know that I'm wrong. And hey, I'll admit I'm wrong. I just want to be smarter by the end of the day. So hey, man, if you think of any points that I didn't bring up in this video, please let me know. Again, no hard feelings. I appreciate y'all. Catch y'all with probably another 2 videos tomorrow. Catch y'all later. I'm out.